Hey, hello everyone. On today's, I'm your host Terrence Greer, and on today's episode we have the wonderful and incredible Miss Kimberly Nicole. If I'm not mistaken, you are the creator and founder of Kizomba RDU,
Correct.
which aims to promote Kizomba as well as other African dances in the Raleigh-Durham, North Carolina area.
Correct.
Hey, how are you
Yeah.
doing today?
I'm doing good. And yourself?
I'm doing so. I'm very happy and I'm very appreciative that you
Yeah.
took
Thank you
time out
for
to do
having me
this.
on your show.
Of
Appreciate it.
course, of
Yeah.
course, of course. So if I'm not mistaken, Emily, you were born in Buffalo, New York.
Yes. Buffalo, New
That's
York.
the code, right?
It's
Like,
cold.
ooh,
Yes. In the snow too.
cool,
So yeah.
cool. I guess I'm very curious to hear what was your childhood like growing up in Buffalo?
Oh, I had a really good childhood growing
Okay, yeah.
up in Buffalo.
You
I
enjoyed it?
mean, yeah, I grew up most of my time in Buffalo and a little bit in Alabama too.
Okay.
But yeah, so when we were at home, like whenever we had snow days, play out in the snow and really good weather in the summers and go to the lake, go to the beach. So yeah, it was a really good time
So
growing up.
big outdoor type thing for you in your youth, or not really?
Yeah, we did a lot of things outdoors as a family. Sometimes we would go hiking,
Okay.
picnics, and cookouts and stuff. So
Okay.
yeah, but I spent a lot of time actually dancing growing up too,
Really?
but in the dance studio.
Okay.
So
Okay.
yeah, I've been dancing since I was 3, so I spent a lot of time doing that: tap, jazz, ballet, hip hop.
Hey.
Yeah, so.
Let me
Yeah.
ask you this quick. What did your parents do?
So my mom is actually deceased, but she was
Okay.
a teacher
Okay.
for 35 years in public schools. And then my dad retired now, but he was a global purchasing manager for a subsidiary of GM.
Okay. Okay.
So
Sure
yeah,
enough, I understand. Real quick, how important was music growing up in your household?
very
Very.
important, very important. We all the time music playing all the time every day. I actually have a brother who's a professional musician.
Nice. What instrument, real quick?
He plays bass guitar.
Okay.
Yep. And then myself growing up too as well, I played oboe, bass clarinet, and bassoon. So
Okay.
music was always around, cleaning the house, listening to oldies, 70s, disco, funk, you name it. We always had it going in my
Okay.
house. Yeah.
That's awesome. And so, are your parents from New York as well, or
No, both my parents are from Mississippi.
Mississippi? Okay, so down south.
Yep.
Okay.
So my dad's job took them up there. Yep.
Okay. Okay. And you kind of spoke on it already. You said the dance school dancing was a big part of your youth. What got you into that originally? Do you remember?
I think my mom just said, "Here, go into a dance class," and that's,
Okay.
and then I just stuck with it ever since.
Okay.
So yeah.
And is that something that you just always loved, or
I
what?
love dance. Yeah, it's like in the heart and soul. I was even a double major in college in dance. So yeah.
Okay. Do you remember? Maybe not. Do you remember your beginner stage? Like, how was dancing for you in your youth? Was it difficult, challenging? Was it just strictly
No,
fun?
dancing has always been my outlet. It's
Okay.
always been something that I've loved doing. So I never found it challenging or hard, and was always hamming it up and stuff.
Okay.
So
All right.
yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. So growing up in Buffalo, dancing, enjoying the outdoors and everything. Do you remember as a child what you wanted to be when you grew up?
Oh yes. As a child growing up, I actually wanted to be an Alvin Ailey dancer.
And please, what is that
Yeah,
exactly?
so Alvin Ailey is one of the most remarkable, amazing dance companies that's based out of New York City. And Alvin Ailey is one of the first African American dance companies
Okay.
in the country. So it really was very groundbreaking and provided an opportunity and a stage for Black people to have a voice within
Okay.
dance where spaces where we weren't normally typically welcomed in. So it was a dance company founded by Alvin Ailey, who was a remarkable man. He's now deceased, but gave the opportunity for African Americans to have a voice and to show their talent.
Okay. And do you remember how you got introduced to, I guess, that type of avenue? Is that contemporary, or what is
Yes,
it?
contemporary modern
Okay.
and classical ballet as well
Okay.
too, but more contemporary modern as
You remember how
well.
you got introduced?
Yeah, my mom took me to a show.
Okay.
So yeah, my mom
In
took me to a
in
show
Buffalo?
in Buffalo.
And
Yeah.
from like that changed your life, like
Yes, there. It's
life-changing
just
experience?
in general, learning about African American history and
Yeah.
learning about our culture and the spaces that we weren't allowed to be in and how we've overcome those things have really been an interest of me as well. And so hearing about Alvin Ailey and providing the opportunity for us was really big. Also, as when I was growing up, Buffalo is not the most diverse city.
Okay.
And so sometimes I did feel a little out of place being the only person of color in a dance class or being the only person of color in a classroom. And so sometimes didn't feel like, I could go as far or excel as much because of that. Or I'm also tall, and my body was built a little bit different than other dancers as well too. So not seeing my body type or not seeing my hair type, or when we had to wear these little buns and things like that, which were more conducive to those of not non-melanated skin. And then seeing Alvin Ailey and providing us a space and opportunity to just kind of glow really stuck with me.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious. So you see Alvin Ailey and you get introduced to it. I guess I don't really know much about it. So is there a school that you can go to train, or is it is it?
Yeah. So they actually have their own school,
Right,
but it's very, very, very competitive to become an Alvin Ailey dancer and to train with them and stuff too. They did have currently have a program at Fordham University, which is also very competitive to get into as well. So, and then also if you go to Fordham, you can take discounted classes. Anyone can take classes as Alvin Ailey, but then being a part of the dance troupe is a little bit different.
Okay, I understand. So you say you see the play and everything. Is that your only and singular goal after that? To become a part of that dance crew?
No, so I said a double major, so I also do marketing communications as well. So the other flip side was to be the marketing director for Alvin Ailey.
Okay. Yeah.
So if I couldn't join the dance troupe, then market them.
Awesome, though.
So
You adapting, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Let me ask you this real quick. You speaking on, how Buffalo wasn't, I guess, very diverse from your perspective. Looking back on it, how do you think that influenced you, as a person who you are today? Can you put that into words at all?
Yeah. Outside of dance, I also grew up doing pageants and things like that too. And again, also being sometimes the only person of color in that space as well. And at that time, growing up, you don't really see a lot of images of yourself.
Okay.
You didn't see images of yourself on the cover of Elle. You didn't see images of yourself on television unless it was the Cosby or other, very few select things. And so the standard of beauty at that time for me was very challenging. When I was a young girl trying to find myself, trying to be like, fit in, or what's beauty, what's not beauty, and stuff like that. So I think that really shaped me as a person today in terms of being like, I wouldn't say defiant, maybe defiant or a little bit rebellious and trying to challenge those norms. And, yes, being proud to be the only person of color in this pageant, being proud of being the only person of color who is excelling and achieving in academics or excelling and achieving in dance and or on the cheerleading team or something along those lines, and making sure like, yes, this is where we have a space. This is where I am. This is who I am. And so I feel like I've lived my life unapologetically me. And part of that being how I grew up, not always seeing myself in those day-to-day norms of what society has, and then always kind of challenging the status quo.
Okay. I'm very curious. Are you a only child or?
No, I'm the youngest of three.
Oh, youngest of three. Yeah. Okay. All right. Sure enough. Is that where you get the rebellion from, or what? Being a young child?
No, I get it from my mom and her side of the family. We're strong women, all of us. So I think I really get a lot of that from, just standing in our own truth and standing in our own voice and not backing down. So raising hell.
So say growing up in Buffalo and everything, I'm curious. What happens for you after you graduate high school?
So after I graduated high school, I went to school down here in North Carolina at Elon University.
Did you immediately know marketing at that time?
Yeah. So I always knew growing up that I've always either wanted to do dance or if I wanted to do communications or marketing. I was always that person who liked to spread the word about things. Like as a cheerleader, I was putting up flyers around school. I was always like, come to the game, come do this, or always trying to get someone to do something. And so I always knew, specifically when I looked at schools for undergraduate, what had really good communication programs and also the ability to dance as well too. And so Elon was one of them.
Real quick. why did your family move down to North Carolina, or did you just come here for school?
I just came here for school.
Okay,
Yeah.
and so why you on there?
As I said, it was a school. It's a really good school.
Okay.
And it allowed me, again, it has a really good communications program.
Okay.
And then also dancing as well. And then also cheerleading.
Okay.
And so it was a school that allowed me to also cheer. It's a D1 school at that too. So other D1 schools, I may have not have had the opportunity to cheer since I was tall. And most cheerleaders are a little bit on the shorter sides if they have co-ed teams and stuff too. So we had an all-female team, so it allowed me the chance to do everything that I loved in high school, but also at a collegiate level too.
All right, so you actually have done a lot. So how important was cheerleading for you then?
Yeah, it was. I love cheerleading.
Yeah,
it was like my sport, I guess. Well, I won't quote marks. It's a sport.
I mean,
yeah.
I understand that. I'm not gonna argue it. I believe it's a sport. Did you, I guess, competitive? Is that what you did, or was it for the team?
Yeah, so we did, and when I was in high school, we did have competitions, and we did do that. I won the spirit stick and stuff.
Set It Off? Is that it?
No, Set It Off is the the bank robbery one.
Okay, there's a cheerleading movie, I know.
Yes, now that you did with Gabrielle Union, and now that you've said it, I can Bring It On.
Bring It On.
Yes,
there it is.
I'm like, now that you said it, I couldn't remember. Bring It On.
Okay,
Yeah,
I feel like I've seen parts of that.
Yeah.
Was it like that? Is it that how it is?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you got into cheerleading and everything, and you wanted to do it in college, so it was very important to you. Definitely. I don't know much about this, so what is the life like of a D1 cheerleader?
A lot of training, a lot of workouts. We, at the time when I was cheering, we were often still on the same training program, weightlifting program as the football players.
So definitely an athlete.
So yeah, yep. So we had mandatory weightlifting, mandatory runs, mandatory training every day. Yep. So.
And I'm very curious, were you the only person of color then? Or
there was two when I started. I think me and Monique. And then by the time I left, I think Doris was there. It was only a handful of us.
Only a handful.
Okay. Yeah. So Elon was a predominantly white institution.
I understand. Okay. Even more opportunity to shine, though. I imagine, right? Okay.
You can get a little bit lost sometimes, but yeah, it was a very small minority population too.
And were you able to do that all throughout your college, career?
I was. For personal reasons, I didn't do it my senior year, but yeah, I did do it.
Okay.
Freshman, sophomore.
You enjoyed it?
I did.
Hey, let me ask you this real quick then. I guess specifically for that background in cheerleading, or are you able to translate that to how you dance now? Are you able to incorporate anything from cheerleading to how you dance now? Does anything transfer? I'm just curious.
No, I always just think the attitude and the positivity that I bring and getting people excited and being inspired and to get involved, I think that has translated more into dancing, especially for Kizomba and Semba.
When you're performing, so if you perform at all?
Yeah, we do perform too, but that was always a part of dance as well too. Yeah. Yeah, we have a team. Well, we had a team. We didn't have a team this year, but we'll have a team again next year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. So, real quick, when did you graduate from college, from Eden?
Oh gosh, that's like dating me.
I'm sorry.
I was kidding. 2006.
Okay, 2006. Yeah. Okay. So you graduated your double major, correct?
I ended up minoring in dance.
Minoring. Okay. And so, you're doing cheerleading and everything. Are you still dancing in college at all?
No, I'm done with college.
What I'm saying, while you were in college, were you still dancing?
Yes. Yep. So when I was in the major, I ended up I had 2 to 3 dance classes a day. Every day. On top of still cheering too.
So you had a double major as well as cheerleading. So you were very busy.
Yeah, I had 23 to 25 credits every semester. I don't know. I just like to function in being busy. Yeah, so I've always been that person who some might call it overachieving, but I'm just a person who liked to be busy a lot. Yeah.
You were very busy. So let me ask you this, man. For myself and others who maybe have a hard time juggling a lot of things on the plate, you seem like you excel in these type of situations. Any words of advice, for a busy life, or how to maintain, how to excel, perhaps?
Self-care is very important. There's been times where I felt very burnt out, but taking that moment to take a break, when you listen to yourself, if you need to take a break, take a break. especially if it's something that it's passionate about and that you love doing. You don't want to ruin that. And so it's taking that necessary break. No is a good word to also learn.
Big
a lot of
word.
people sometimes have a hard time saying no, and even myself had a hard time saying no. But then you really have to just look at what are you doing, and if something comes up, or an activity, or even an invite or something, or an extra project, you really have to see like what is important right now, and then saying that word no and putting up that boundary. So having a good balance of doing that, even if you like to stay busy, but you don't want to burn yourself out.
That's very important.
Yeah.
Especially, the no part. That's very
Yeah.
big.
It's a good word to learn.
It is.
So,
Seriously.
yes.
You can't do everything.
Yep.
So you graduate from Eden, and then you go straight into working, or you take time off?
Yeah, I took a year off from academics. I went straight into working, temping here and there, and then landed at a law firm.
Okay.
Doing first starting off at administrative work, and then ended up doing paralegal work.
Okay.
So within that year, and then I ended up going back to grad school. So I worked full time and then went to grad school on the weekends.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you seriously? That's impressive.
Yeah.
And all this time still dancing, yes, or what?
No, during this time after I graduated, when I went back to Buffalo, there wasn't classes for adults in terms of like ballet or tap or jazz.
Okay.
So most classes they had were jazzercise or Zumba or
right,
something.
right.
So I would do those things here and there, but that's a little bit different than studio dancing. So yeah, at that time I had stopped dancing for a little bit until I found salsa.
Okay.
Yeah.
Real quick. I know nothing about, I guess, having a dance major in college. So you take a variety of classes, correct? Okay.
So you do have your studio classes where you're doing the technical training and the core competencies in that, and advancing in your technique. And then you also have theory classes, like history classes as well of dance. Yes, there's a lot of history in dances. A lot of dances have history. A lot of dances start in culture aspects as well
Of
too.
course, right.
So it's all different types of history classes that you take. You also learn about choreography, like how to put together pieces and things like that, expression. So outside of just the technical training, there's the other stuff that goes into being a
Right.
dancer as well too, and very important to have like the history to know, and even might not like folkloric dances. So even outside of what your normal studio dance would be. So then you learn about folklore dance, and then you learn about, the history of ballet, or then you learn about, history of other dances like the waltz and ballroom and stuff like that. So
And practicing all these as well, man.
yep,
Right?
you do a little bit of here and there in some of the classes.
That really kind of stretches you out of your comfort zone, right? Doing all these different dances.
Yeah, I'm a history buff, so
Okay.
as well as it also opens your eyes too,
Yes, of course.
to also seeing that there's other opportunities than just being on the stage or just in ballet.
Okay.
A lot of people start with ballet, and as you grow in your technique and training, there's even more ballet. Of
course.
And that's a little bit more classical, a little bit more rigid, and then you start branching off into modern and lyrical, but also learning the background to where those dances come from, or the different leaders of those dances and different styles. You learn the history of their technique and their teaching as well too. So you learn about Martha Graham, you learn about Alvin Ailey, you learn about all these different people throughout history who've influenced different styles, Bob Fosse in different ways, musicals, Broadway. So you learn about all these different avenues that are through dance and the possibilities of dance.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm very curious. I'm kind of jumping ahead, but with Kizomba RDU, were you able to utilize anything you learned from your university time with this project of yours, with this business?
Yeah, I mean, like choreography every single day. Not every day, but I mean, whenever I have classes and stuff. I mean, my classes aren't choreography based, but even how to teach, how to break down movement.
Okay.
Throughout all my dance training, you really become in tune with your body and how does it move, which muscle movements is engaging this, or to start or execute this movement, what do you need to do and use. And then you also learn how to teach and break that down. So that's really helped me in teaching others and starting Kizomba RDU
Yeah.
because you have this new dance that people don't know much about, and since I'm not really choreography based,
Right.
being able to break it down in components that really help somebody to learn the foundations and the building blocks of the dance in order to then open up the creativity for you then to achieve your own, I
Yeah.
guess.
Okay.
And then for the choreography aspect, when we have the team, everything I've learned on how to put something together, how to listen to music, how to count music, how to choreograph to music, musicality, things like that I've learned through my education background and just every day,
Right.
like being around dance and stuff.
So that's definitely a benefit then. Of course, of course.
Yeah.
So you mentioned it earlier. You said you started working. You took a year off from college. I believe, and you started working, and then you said you got introduced to salsa.
That was about 4 or 5 years after.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Sure enough. I'm very curious. I guess how did you get introduced to salsa?
A boy.
Okay.
There was a boy that I liked at the time who was a really good salsa dancer.
And this is Buffalo, or?
Yeah,
Okay.
which everyone listening will probably know who it is. So
Okay.
anyways,
Okay.
yes.
Right.
Yeah, so boy. I think
Understood.
that's like everybody's story into how they get introduced
I
into
believe
these.
it.
Well, some people, but a lot of people's story is
I
the
definitely
opposite sex. So yeah, oh boy.
And so real quick then, tell me about your beginner stage in salsa. What was that like for you?
So having the dance background really kind of helped me with salsa in terms of easily picking up movement. So I would say my beginner stage may have not has been as much beginner as someone who had no dance
Of course.
background.
Right.
So I first didn't take classes. I first went to socials and was trying to pick up the stuff
Wow.
there.
That's
But then me having the dance, not like my dance training in my background, if I'm going to learn a dance or do a dance, then I need to excel in it, or I need to train in it. I need to learn the basics. I need to learn the pedagogy. I need to learn everything behind it in order to be the best dancer that I can be.
Of course.
And so then that's when I started getting into dance classes for salsa.
Okay.
Yeah.
And real quick, who was your first salsa instructor?
Shout out to Fanny and Calvin in Buffalo, New York.
Okay.
Yep.
What was the last name, if you don't mind? You know?
Rice.
Rice. Fanny Calvin Rice. Okay.
Yes.
Sure enough. And that was what, just the nearest dance school or what?
Yeah. There's a couple of dance schools in Buffalo, but they had a social going. So because I went to the socials first, and then from there got introduced to, yeah, so they had hosted socials and then had got introduced there.
And let me ask you this real quick. Because I know there's probably a lot of people who might have went through it the same way as you, where they try and learn through socials instead of classes first. Do you advocate a one way over the other, or would you do things the same way how you do them now, meaning socials first?
I think socials is a good way to introduce people to a dance.
Right. Yeah.
But if you want to actually learn how to dance, you need to go to classes.
Okay,
So
right.
I'm a very big advocate for taking classes.
Okay.
And yes, socials help with you practicing your moves and getting better at your moves and dancing with different dancers of all different levels, and that can help too. But if you don't have a strong foundation, if you don't know what you're doing, you could be practicing bad habits.
Of course.
And then if you're breaking those bad habits when you go to classes and you actually learn like, oh, and you have those light bulb moments and it makes sense. So then you can actually excel and get a little bit better.
Yes. So, classes are very, very super important.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, so you say you get introduced to salsa, and are you doing bachata at that time as well, or not really?
No, just salsa.
Okay.
At that time, bachata wasn't that big. This was back in 2009, 2010.
Okay.
So yeah, bachata wasn't that big. It was just starting to get introduced a little
I
bit.
get you.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, doing salsa, are you very passionate about it? Like, or is it just a little hobby for you?
At the time, I was passionate about salsa, but I think it's because I was passionate about dance.
Okay, right.
Yeah, I'm just passionate about dance in general. So it's like learning a new dance, and I'm passionate about it. So I used to salsa like all the time.
Okay.
But my passion for salsa is a little bit different than my passion for Kizomba and Semba. I would say I really had a spark for Kizomba and Semba.
Okay.
And when I danced salsa, I guess that was more of for a hobby. And I never wanted to teach salsa, never felt inclined to want to go that route, never felt inclined to I've always wanted to get better,
course.
just because that's the dancer in me.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
in terms of like starting a dance group for salsa or anything like that, I've never had that type of passion for salsa. It was just something that I did as an extracurricular activity.
Okay, right.
Whereas Kizomba and Semba have consumed my life,
Yeah,
so a little
yeah.
bit different. Yeah.
Okay. And so you kind of already brought it up, but so how did you get introduced to Kizomba and Semba
Yeah,
then?
so I always say that salsa is kind of like the gateway
It
drug.
is. Definitely.
And so from salsa, I then did get introduced to bachata. So
Okay.
about a few years later, about 2000, this is 2012. So by then I've been dancing maybe like 2 years salsa and then bachata. And so also Brazilian zouk was becoming popular back then as well too.
Okay, so in New York. Oh, do you
Yep.
dance Brazilian Zouk at all?
I do not anymore.
Okay, I
Yeah,
understand.
so I actually started Brazilian zouk before Kizomba.
Oh, wow.
So a lot of people don't know that. So yes, I had dabbled in Brazilian
I'm a big
zouk
fan of
first.
Brazilian Zouk as well.
Yes.
Beautiful dance.
So I went to Toronto, which is really close to Buffalo, about an hour and a half away, to a bachata zouk festival.
Nice.
And so that was when I had first gotten introduced to Kizomba, because Kizomba and Brazilian zouk were in the same room.
Right,
And
right,
I was
right.
like, what is dance are they doing? And what is this walking backwards thing? And what is that? And so that was my first introduction to Kizomba, was at that festival
Okay.
in the room. I just said, okay, let me just dance with someone. Here I am walking backwards. I'm liking the music. I'm liking the movement. And I just said, oh, I could do this.
Hey.
And I said, something feels really good about doing this and dancing like this. So, and then ever since then, it was like hook.
Was that when was that 2012 or
2012.
2012? Okay.
Yep.
So from that moment, yeah, instantly hooked.
Instantly hooked. Yeah.
Okay. So from there, you go to Toronto, go to the festival, get back to Buffalo, and you start looking for classes, or what happens?
Yeah. So the tango instructor in Buffalo was hosting Kizomba little mini sessions at his house. So was going to workshops that he had at his house. And so that's where I learned kind of the basics and the foundations to Kizomba. And then a job opportunity later on in 2012 brought me down to North Carolina.
Okay.
So to Raleigh. So I've been in Raleigh since, for about the past 7 years. But when I moved down here, no Kizomba.
Okay.
Yeah, so at that time, I didn't know that there were Kizomba only festivals at the time. In the U.S., there wasn't that many, but there was still, like the one in San Francisco, got Kizomba, that had been going on and had started. Okay. So I had looked for, at that time I had started going to salsa congresses. So I had looked for salsa congresses that had Kizomba and zouk classes.
Okay.
So then I would specifically seek those ones out. So I would be the only person who would probably go to a salsa congress
for Kizomba
and Brazilian zouk.
Okay.
Yeah.
Real quick. You said that in salsa, you never felt the urge or the passion, to start up a dance group or to teach it at all. But you feel that with Kizomba and Semba. I'm very curious. Can you put into words, I guess, why do you connect with this so much? Why?
It feels like home.
Okay.
Yeah. That's really it.
Yeah,
it feels like home. It's always, ever since I've heard the music, seen the movement, danced it, it just always felt like home. Salsa, not so much. And part of that could be because I don't speak Spanish and I grew up learning French in school and stuff. And so with salsa, I never really felt a connection in that way. More of like, it's not part of my culture. It's not part of who I am. But there's an essence of it as well. But I liked the music of salsa, but I never felt salsa was home. When I started listening to Kizomba music, not the R&B sounding stuff, ghetto zouk stuff that first got people interested into Kizomba. And then also one of my first teacher training programs that I went to really was like, this is home. Yeah.
Okay. I'll say, you speak a little Portuguese, but how important, I guess, for anyone really, is the connection to the music? I imagine, like, if you don't like the music, you probably won't like the dance as much.
Well, the music is the master.
Right.
If that makes sense.
It dictates everything, correct?
Yeah. Music is the master. So even growing up with ballet, my biggest complaint the music.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was because it just, I'm not really a fan of classical music.
No, I
and stuff.
understand.
Part of that's because I played the oboe, and
Which one is the oboe? Was that similar to the clarinet?
similar, but it's a double reeded instrument. It's a
Double
little bit
reeded.
high pitched. If you listen to classical music and there's that,
That's the oboe?
most
Okay,
times,
sure
yes.
enough. I'll keep that in mind.
yes.
Mm.
So yes, the music is always the master, and if you can connect to the music, then I think it's so much easier to dance versus learning the steps and then trying to apply it to music.
Okay. I think I understand you on that, yeah. I think it makes it easier to learn as well, right? When you enjoy it, you enjoy the process, right?
Yes.
So I understand that. Okay.
Yeah.
So you said, you're traveling around to salsa festivals trying to find Kizomba. Did I ask you about your beginner stage in Kizomba? Did I ask you that? And so how was that? Because you said you got down to Raleigh and there was no Kizomba. So, I guess what was your beginner stage like? Not able to take classes?
Oh, I was in DC a lot.
Okay.
I drove up to DC a lot.
From Raleigh? Okay.
People thought I actually lived in DC.
Okay.
That's how much I was driving up to DC.
Who was teaching at that time in DC?
Oscar.
Okay.
So we'll have Oscar here tomorrow.
Yes.
Yeah. So we'll have
he's gonna be here.
Yep. He's gonna be DJing tomorrow.
Okay.
But I would go to his socials.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah,
right.
I would go to
I've
his
been
socials, and then take classes if he had a workshop before then. Michelle Reyes had Charles Oger, so I went up there for a couple of his workshops too. So yeah, so anytime I was like, DC is the closest place, going.
Okay.
So yeah, I was in DC.
From Raleigh.
If there's no traffic, about 4.5 hours.
Oh, Soldier.
With traffic, a little bit more. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I was committed.
You were.
And then also at the time too with Kizomba, dance has always kind of been therapeutic as well. And so my mom had passed in 2013. And so I took like a 6-month break. When I came back in 2014, I said, I'm going to dive into Kizomba.
Okay.
And so part of the therapy with that was just getting out. I was so new here to the area, I didn't really have a lot of connections. And so Kizomba family became my family.
Okay.
And then that family is everywhere. So I've met so many people through Kizomba, but it was therapeutic to just go here and go there and to get out the house and to not just be, here in the house thinking about, the grieving and stuff. So Kizomba really helped me in that process as well too. So.
I'll say, I've heard people say that, dancing is kind of like a language. And I think something that's really cool is like, for salsa, bachata, kizomba, any maybe partner dance. If you relate it to a language, you can go anywhere and you can kind of dance with anyone.
I always say dance is universal.
Okay, exactly. Yeah,
dance is really universal. Cool. People say music is universal, yes, but dance is also universal.
Okay, yeah.
Yep.
I don't want to dwell too much on the negative, but I'm very curious. I'm blessed that my mother and father are both still alive. I'm very curious, how did that affect you losing your mother? Can I ask if that's okay?
No, that's okay. Yeah,
okay.
A lot.
Okay, I understand.
It's a lot. My mother passed away very unexpectedly and very young. She was only 63.
Okay.
And it's like you have a hole.
Right.
There's always kind of like this feeling of a hole. And that hole will always be there.
Yeah.
But you just kind of keep going. And I know part of why my mom would always believe in me when it came to dance. Even times when I would doubt myself or not just dance, anything in life, she would always be my cheerleader.
That's awesome.
And so there's one time it's like, oh, forget it, I'm going to give up on dance and this, that, and the third and yada, yada, yada. And I always sit there and say, like, if my mother could see me now, she would just be like, you're doing it. Hey. And this is the woman that I always knew you could be. And so I always have her in the back of my mind, always pushing me to, even in my toughest times, like when I'm ready to throw in the towel with Kizomba or I'm ready to just be like, forget it all, I just hear her in the back of my mind saying, you got this, keep going, don't let anyone tell you or dictate, where you are or who you should be, you know who you are. And so, yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's wonderful. That's awesome. So you say you're traveling back and forth from DC, North Carolina, trying to take class and everything. You say you spoke on a teacher training program. When was this, may I ask?
2015. 2015.
Okay.
I went to Portugal.
Okay. Oh,
And
so all right, I don't want to like get out of here. So 2012 you get introduced, and so from 12 to 15 you're just trying to take classes wherever you can. Okay.
Yep.
Sure enough. Okay.
Yep, trying to take classes and learn wherever I could.
Mm.
And again, the same with how I approached dance in general. If I'm going to learn, I need to learn from the best and train with the best and do from the best. And so that's how I ended up in Portugal in 2015.
Okay.
And so the same thing, the thing with Kizomba is when I first got introduced to it, it was kind of like you learn the basics, but then I was also realizing that some of this is a little bit different than what this teacher is teaching, than what that teacher is teaching, than what this teacher is teaching. So you could also be a little bit confused too. So in the beginning stages, I was getting a lot of different information from different people because of just what people think or were presuming to be Kizomba, which I now look back and can say, okay, that was more maybe Kizomba fusion.
I said with the Kizomba, there's no really like official pedagogy or like guidelines?
No, there is.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Is that from Petu or like?
There's from Petu.
Okay.
And there's other teachers too, but yes, things like, Saida or Corradino or Casamento and things like that. Yes. So Petu is really credited with putting the pedagogy too.
So back between 12 and 15, was there one at that time as well? I'm thinking like maybe.
Well, people were saying like basic 1 and basic 2 and basic 3, and their basic 1, 2, and 3 were all different, different things. Or well, Saida was Saida regardless of how people executed. Saida was a little bit different, and so people were using terms, or some people were making up their own terms and things like that too. So it was really hard in the beginning to figure out like what was quality instruction, if that made sense.
I understand.
And then especially like, sometimes, not to speak wrong or poorly about Latin festivals, but sometimes Latin festivals, they don't know who's who in Kizomba.
I understand.
And so they don't necessarily, they use Kizomba as like a way to get more people to come to their festivals, but they're not really investing in the Kizomba side of things. So then they're inviting who knows who doesn't really have, that solid background and foundation in teaching Kizomba or in Kizomba itself. And then because of that, now you're having misinformation being passed out at festivals.
I think for you, going to salsa festivals trying to find Kizomba is like, going to like a Chinese restaurant trying to get really good Italian.
Yes.
So,
I now know that.
Okay, yeah.
I now know that. I do now know that.
Okay.
I wish other people would know that too, but hey, it is what it is.
I mean, that's just a part of your learning process, though. I definitely understand that. I'm very...
And that's because I didn't know at the time that there were Kizomba festivals.
Right, I understand. I'm very curious to hear about, I guess, first off, your time in Lisbon. But I guess really before that, what sparked you to go to Lisbon? The desire to learn? Okay. And
so I approach everything. If I'm going to do it, I got to do it with the best.
Okay, sure enough.
And so that's what it was. At that time, I was like, I'm getting all this misinformation. And then I'm discovering Kizomba events. So now I'm going to Sawa Sawa. Now, nice. Now I'm going to the Kizomba events. There's different other Kizomba events that are no longer at this time, but realizing like, okay, this is definitely different. And so because of that, you meet other people and you're like, who did you train with? Who do you train with? You're a good dancer. Who did you train with? And of those of my cohort, my colleagues at the time, a lot of people were saying Petu.
Okay.
And so Tanya, who you had mentioned before that you had on the show, she's one of them who I talked to, and she was like Petu. So I was like, I need to go to Portugal and train with Petu. So sure enough, that's exactly what I did.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Okay, so you actually, you told me you knew Tanya, but you met her before. Okay, awesome.
Yep.
Tanya is a wonderful dancer, as well as a great instructor. She was my first Kizomba instructor.
Oh, yeah.
So I would drive, I live in Richmond, Virginia, so I would drive up from Richmond to Norfolk, where she was, which is about an hour and a half every Sunday. And I would take a private with her every Sunday.
Nice.
Because she was the only teacher around, Nice. And I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But I'm very curious to hear, so you go travel to Lisbon, what was your time in Lisbon like? And how long did you stay?
Oh, I've been to Lisbon over the years numerous times.
Okay.
I think at that time I was only there for the training, so
Okay.
maybe only a week that time.
Shucks. Okay.
Yeah,
And
so
with Petu or?
with Petu, yep. But then that was my time. It's like, next time I come to Lisbon, I need to do more than just that. So
Okay.
yeah, so that first time, yeah, when I went to Petu, and it was just one. That was really my first time. Like even with salsa, I never traveled really much anywhere outside of like the
You've
tri-state
traveled out the
area.
country
Yes,
for
I
this
traveled out the
before.
country for
Yes.
Kizomba, and just going to Lisbon was incredible. There's a lot
Wow.
of history in Lisbon too.
Of
Again, the
course.
history
Palace and
buff part of me
everything. Yeah.
too. So I'm like, ooh, Lisbon, this very old European city and stuff. But going to Petu's training with Vanessa, and I love
Yeah.
Vanessa
Yeah.
too. Just was an eye opener for me in terms of like it clicked.
Okay.
But not only that, the training itself was really good. And I recommend all teachers who are serious about teaching in Kizomba to take a training with Petu and Vanessa, because they're just very solid. And they also bring in the culture aspect to the
Yeah.
history as well too. But what really was like Kizomba's home is on the last day. So it was the training, and then they had a musicality course. So then we actually got to listen to DJs and talk about how they play or why they play or the connection with the dancers and things like that too. And then the differences between Kizomba and Semba and all of that as well. And then on the very last day, they had a call to Semba, which is basically where, people go out dancing all night long. And then the next day, they convene at someone's house or somewhere in the neighborhood, and they cook and have music and have parties. And so seeing that, and this was the first one in Lisbon at that time. This was my first experience with Angolan cuisine. So throughout the training, you have Angolan food as well.
Okay,
it's
nice.
really delicious.
Hey.
But then seeing the Angolan community come together, being in this caldo, and it just was like, this is home. It reminded
Awesome.
me of a family reunion.
Okay.
And so I'm like, okay, this is what I've needed. This is what Kizomba means.
Okay.
Seeing that changed everything.
Really?
Yep. Yep.
I got a lot of questions I want to ask you, but this is one that kind of popped up first. You traveling to Portugal, Lisbon, and also taking that teacher training, is a very, costs money. It's very monetary. So I'm very curious, for someone who may not be able to afford that, but is very eager to, to, I guess maybe teach or trying to give back to their community, maybe start their own Kizomba. What things did you learn from that teacher training that maybe you could give to someone else to help them out?
If you can't go to Lisbon, and if you don't have the means or the finances to do so, or the time off from work, because that sometimes plays into it too,
Yeah.
there are people in the U.S. who
Okay.
are very well versed in their craft, very well versed in knowing the pedagogy, very well versed, and reach out to them and teach and train with them. Me being one of them. Nice. Not to toot my own horn, but there's Tanya, there's Oscar, there's Bashinio, there's Kaya, there's like tons of people who have gone, who are very well versed and very well trained. We may not be at every single festival, and we are the local community builders. Right. Really reach out to them and train and support them in what they're doing. And take privates with them. Pick their brain for the knowledge. Attend their workshops. Hit them up. Ask them questions. We're all very accessible. Okay. No one is like too above like, don't talk to me. We are all very accessible. And that is my recommendation for people. There's people right here in the U.S. You don't have to leave and spend thousands of dollars. It really is thousands of dollars.
Yeah, I believe it.
Because there's people here who've invested in that type of training.
That's awesome.
And to seek them out.
Yep. Real quick, so you spoke on traveling to Lisbon and how that last night was really impactful for you. Getting to experience I guess that Angolan Kizomba culture. Can you put into words we'll say specifically for Kizomba, why is it important to understand the culture of a dance when learning it?
This is my history background. I think it's important to understand how things have an influence.
Okay.
That art oftentimes comes from pain. And that people use dance and music as a way to overcome those things. And to understand the cultural significance, importance, and time and history to work through that. I think it's very important for people, especially if you're wanting to teach Kizomba or Semba, to understand where the music and the dance birthed from. Because it stems from pain, but also stems from pride.
Okay.
And having that sense of Angolan pride really is what birthed this cultural art that we all enjoy now. And having that importance and understanding of that helps you to appreciate it a little bit more, but also to know that I'm not just pulling steps out of the thin air, that they actually correlate and relate to everyday life, or they come from the music, or, what is the music? We may not be able to speak Portuguese or some of the other dialects that are the songs that are spoken into, but if you do know somebody who is able to translate from them, then you'll understand the joy that's behind some of these songs, even working through the pain. And so I think it's very important to have that context. And actually, every single dance has a history to it. Like waltz has history to it, foxtrot has history, jive has history to it. So in seeing how bachata has history to it, merengue has history to it, all of these dances all have histories that stem from culture, that stem from everyday life. And that's real. Yes, you can have the creativity and you can have the evolution and all of that, but this is real. And being able to relate to that and to be authentic with it, I think is why people should really understand the importance of it.
Okay, sure enough. So I guess you said you're kind of a history buff. All right. So Kizomba comes from Semba, right? And Semba, was that influence from Zouk music, correct? Is that how it is, or what?
Semba? No.
Not at all? Okay.
No. Kizomba, to an extent, yes.
Okay.
Semba is Angolan through and through.
Okay.
So it's the African rhythms that come from Angola.
Okay, sure enough. All right.
So Semba itself, the music, we'll talk separately from the dance.
I know that's got a lot of pain in it, right? The music.
Some of them. Well, historically, traditionally,
right.
yes. It's really about everyday life for Angolan people.
Okay.
Especially when there's the golden age of Semba, right after independence from Portugal.
Okay.
And so you had, prior to that, when they were underneath Portuguese colonization, Semba played an important role in terms of talking about everyday life, in terms of what people in Angola were going through. And then also having that Angolan pride behind it as well too. So it kind of became the voice and the cultural backdrop to the people of Angola. And one of the things that I love the best about Semba is that while they were underneath Portuguese rule, colonized, the Portuguese would oftentimes have some bands go around to entertain, but they wouldn't understand the lyrics. And the lyrics would be making fun of the Portuguese. And I find that to be the funniest thing, just because, it kind of reminds me of how some of our race relations have played out in the U.S. as well, too.
Sure enough.
And where you've had, same thing, too, prior to civil rights era, where you've had certain African Americans and Black folks who were welcomed in certain spaces. Because they were artists, or because they could play a game, or they could do this, that, and the third. But then afterwards, we want nothing to do with you. So to me, I kind of feel like it mirrors and echoes the same type thing, but not knowing that they were also being mocked. Thinking, so yeah, I always I always laugh at that because I'm like, ha ha, y'all
Right.
didn't know, but it's like, yes,
Understand?
so yeah.
No, I definitely understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, we were speaking on, before we got on to Angola and everything, we were speaking on your teacher training and whatnot. You said you've been back multiple times and everything. So, so, you go the first time that you go there, you're experiencing, you love it and everything. I guess I want to ask you, when did the idea for Kizomba RDU come about?
So what happened was when I was going out dancing, I would then be like, well, this is before I went to Lisbon. When I first moved here, I'd be like, do you guys have Kizomba?
Okay.
And all the salsa socials, do you have Kizomba? Do you have Kizomba? And I would be asking DJs, do you have Kizomba?
Okay, right.
And so that's kind of how, because I wanted to dance it,
Yeah.
And then there's people who wanted to practice. So it'd be like, okay, I'd practice with one person on this day. And then I practice another person on that day. And then I practice another person on that day. And then I'm like, okay, I'm practicing with 4 or 5 people, and I'm like, something has to happen because obviously there's an interest. And then also just to make things easier. So I'm not like this day, that person, this day, that person, this day, that person. I said, okay, let's just have classes. Okay. Let's just start. And so part of that too was also Oscar. I was like, okay, well, we're going to do this. I don't know how to teach. And at this time, I wasn't leading. I was just a follow. Okay. So I was just like, I don't know how to do all this stuff. So, I'm like, I don't know the first thing about teaching. I'm like, who do I need to call to get down here to come teach?
And real quick, this was before Lisbon or after Lisbon?
This is before Lisbon.
Okay,
this is back in 2014. Okay. So I didn't go to Lisbon until 2015.
Oh, okay, yeah. right, okay.
So I was like, oh, Oscar's very highly recommended. So I called up Oscar, and the very first thing Oscar said was like, well, that's great and all that you want me to bring you, but what are you going to do after I leave?
Oh, true.
Because, he's really about the community.
Right.
And he's really pushed me over the years to be about the community. And I was like, well, I have a Facebook page. And he was like, okay, like a Facebook group, like, okay, so what else, what else can you do to get this Kizomba thing growing and this Kizomba thing brewing? So, yep. So that's kind of how it started.
And so was he the one, or from there, I guess you felt the need to learn and go to Portugal? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Because I was like, I didn't feel right, and this is just me personally. I didn't feel right about taking people's money and not knowing what I was doing. Again, that's me personally. I know there's lots of people who have no problem taking people's money and they don't know what they're doing. So for me, it was important, again, as I said, if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it right to have that, if I'm going to call myself a teacher, then I need to be trained myself in how to effectively teach this dance. Yep.
A lot of questions for you.
Yeah, keep going.
Yeah. So, so you get back from Lisbon, and is it then that you start to teach?
No, I had started teaching before that.
Okay.
And I had started teaching just a little bit of stuff that I learned here and there and stuff. And I was putting together patterns because I didn't know any better at that time. So I was like, okay, we're going to do this Saida into this, into that. I didn't know any better at the time because that's how I was learning. I was going to festivals. I was learning patterns.
Teaching patterns.
Yeah, so I was just regurgitating patterns or, watching videos. And at that time, I had a practice partner, and so we were teaching the classes together. He was leading and I was following, and I would go to festivals, take the videos, come back, practice with him. Okay, let's teach this. We like this, we like that. Let's put it together. Okay, let's teach that. So that's how I had started teaching. But I was like, I'm not a pattern person. And having had taken salsa classes before and realizing that, I'd taken dance classes before, like partner dance classes, which are completely different than taking like a studio ballet, tap jazz type thing. And realizing some of the things that I liked in the classes I'd taken before and some of the things that I didn't. What did I like in festival workshops and what I didn't. And so then, because I didn't have a teacher here, and I said, well, if I had a teacher here teaching Kizomba, what would I have liked to have learned to help me have a good, solid foundation? And so that's after I came back from Portugal, I really thought about that, about what is it that I wished I had in the beginning to be able to, if there was a teacher here, what would I be looking for? How would I structure? How do I best learn? How do other people learn? Things like that.
I'm very curious. I guess from everything you've learned from traveling to Lisbon, yeah, we'll say Lisbon. Training with FetU. Um, how are, I guess maybe his classes? How are they different than something that you would see at a festival?
So in the teacher training, and this is all teacher training, so it doesn't have to be specific to his or just most of the teacher trainings I've taken. They break down the movement itself. Like, this is what this step is called. This is what that step is called. So you learn building blocks, I like to call them. So, and these building blocks are essential to, if you were to say, okay, I'm going to go watch whoever's the latest dancer and watch one of their videos. Okay, they have elements of this. There's that. I can see a cordino. I can see a bigula. I can see a retro. Like, you can pull out these things. And all of the things together make up social dancing for Kizomba or Semba. And so it's like, you have this one step. Okay, this is a cordino. You have this step. This is a jajao. You have this step. This is a casamento. So you have the movement and the steps themselves. Those are all broken down. And then how do you teach as man? How do you teach as woman? Lead, follow. And then, what are the different things where students might have trouble with and stuff like that. So that's how teacher trainings are a little bit different than if you were to go to a festival workshop and stuff. It doesn't get to that nitty gritty level of detail, right. And then how to then explain it, and then how to break down, like, how do you do this? And then, how do you put together your classes and stuff like that.
Okay, I understand that, yeah. So teacher training, like it implies. Sure enough. So going back to 2015, you start Kizomba RDU. I'm very curious to hear about, what was that first year like? You first starting up, first trying to get your student base and everything. What was that experience like for you?
Oh, I was any and everywhere.
trying to promote, or what?
Yes, trying to promote, trying to dance, trying to hear it, any and everywhere. I was at socials every single night. I was meeting with different people in the community. I was posting on Facebook all the time. I was Kizomba. I was any and everywhere.
Right.
Yeah.
That's your baby, yeah.
Yeah, that was my first year. And that time I was especially within the Latin dance community too, because I was still doing, that's who I knew down here. And I'm like, they're dancers and they want to learn, and so why not? Yeah. So that was year one. Was doing a lot of collaborations as well to help spread the name of Kizomba and for people to see it, doing demos, teaching classes before socials and stuff like that, teaching weekly classes. So just any and everywhere, trying to get the name out, get the dance out. That was year one.
Okay. And so I guess let me ask you this then. So 4 years in, or close to 5 years in now?
5 years.
Kind of like a two-part question for you. So I want you to maybe kind of word this in a way to give advice to someone who wants to start up their own Kizomba community or just dance community. What are some things that you know now that you wish you had known back in 2015?
It's 2014, so actually, yeah. Don't be afraid to start.
Okay.
I had so many hesitations about starting, and I actually wasn't the first one to teach Kizomba in this city.
Okay.
There was another dance company that was teaching it, and they were a very well-oiled machine. They have a really big name, and I was like, oh gosh, I can't do that. No one knows who I am. No one's going to come to my classes, self-doubting myself again. But I had to start somewhere. So that would be the first thing. Don't be afraid to start. You can think of all the reasons why you shouldn't start, or why you can't start, or why not start. Start.
Okay.
Secondly is collaborate.
Okay.
Dance does not live in a vacuum. The world does not live in a vacuum. And the more collaborations you can do, especially in the beginning, to try to spread the name and stuff, if it's before a social, or also too to save expenses as well, because not only have I invested a lot of money into this, but having a dance company or having and growing also takes money as well too.
Yes, of
So,
course, of course.
you know, if you want to, when you start out, you know, you want to figure out how can you cut costs, and a lot of that is through collaboration.
Okay.
Yeah, it's through collaborations, and also have a team, have support. I feel like in the beginning I did a lot of things by myself, and I wish I would have had a team more.
Right.
This year, since it's been such a transitional year for me with the children and stuff, I had a team
Nice.
of people.
Wonderful.
And prior to this now too, like I had teams of folks too, but I'm again like to do things myself, but not being afraid to let other people help you out as well too. So yeah. And then also like train, you know.
Big part.
That's really important if you're wanting to grow a community of dancers. You actually need to know what they're doing. So you also need to invest in yourself and your craft too.
Of course.
So not just YouTube videos, but actually, you know, if you can't go to Lisbon or you can't go that far, try to go to 1 or 2 festivals a year. Try to save up to do 1 or 2 privates a year. Start small. It doesn't have to be big. And that's the other thing too. Things don't have to be big. You start small, and little small things add up.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a big one though. Yeah.
Yeah.
People come with these grandiose ideas, and that can be a lot of pressure.
A lot of pressure, a lot of money, a lot of stuff, a lot of time and energy spent.
Right. Exactly. So true. So true.
And be consistent. Consistency is key, and consistency is very key. I've seen a lot of people come and go over the years.
Right.
And life happens too. You know, that's just how life is. But being consistent is really how you get a community going.
Okay. Yeah. I'm very curious to hear, you know, and for, you know, advice for others as well. You know, how did you go about, you might have already answered, you know, getting, you know, students? Was it through the collaboration, going out dancing and everything?
Yeah, so I first did start very much recruiting in the Latin dance scene because I'm like, well, this is easy. There's already a pool of students right there.
Right.
But the one thing that I found is that people who were investing in salsa dance classes, bachata dance classes, Latin dance classes, that's where they're investing.
Right.
Kizomba is foreign to them. They might dabble a little bit, but then they'll go right back to salsa and bachata. And especially in this area, we have a lot of dance companies in salsa. And so it's very easy to join a dance team. So then people who may have started off as students, they join a salsa dance team. It's very easy to go out dancing every single night of the week. So some people say, oh, well, I can't practice Kizomba, so forget it. You know, but I can do salsa every single night of the week, you know. So then I started saying, you know what? Maybe I want other people. Maybe I don't want Latin dancers. And there is some crossover. Don't get me wrong. I definitely do have crossover. But the thing is, if I'm always competing, quote unquote, and my pool is always from salsa or the Latin scene, anytime I have an event and there's a night with the salsa event, I won't have people at my event. So you need to start pulling in people who have other interests and other things. So that's what I really started to do, focus my marketing elsewhere, and having Kizomba only nights.
Okay. And
recruiting and promoting in areas where that were a little bit outside the box, you know, and just getting regular folks who don't have a dance background,
right?
You know, or who might be Haitian or Caribbean or other African background as well too. And then sometimes that doesn't even directly translate as well because Africa is such a huge continent.
Exactly.
And so where Kizomba and Semba are predominantly for Lusophone countries, in this area we have a lot of Francophone countries. Or we also have Nigerians, we also have Liberians, Kenyans. So it may not necessarily directly translate as well as to being like, oh, I'm just gonna go recruit Africans. That's not how it works either.
Right.
So just really seeing what the market is here and trying different things to get different people, but making sure that I have a diverse pool of students. I have a very diverse pool of students, and I'm very, very happy about that too.
Yeah, that's good right there. The diversity, definitely. Yeah. I was gonna ask you something. Oh shucks. Oh, bingo. So I guess really for the whole 6 years, I guess now that you've been doing this, I'm positive you went through some tough times.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very curious. I guess one, what kept you going through those tough times, and maybe can you give an example of like something that you went through and how you overcame it?
Oh gosh. Uh, let's see. Tough times. I always feel like there's tough times
Okay,
in
fair
Kizomba.
enough. That's
There's
it.
been time. It just depends. Like there's times as like Kizomba growing it here, and then also Kizomba as my own artist, because there's two
Okay,
different things.
right,
So being an artist and going and teaching at festivals and other cities and things like that versus being a local instructor, those are two different avenues. There's been times where I've just wanted to throw in the towel on everything.
okay. It's overwhelming.
It's overwhelming, and a lot of time and finances. So I will say I've been fortunate, knock on wood,
Hey,
to not like when I've had events to go into the hole or anything, because I'm very
okay,
risk adverse.
I
So that's
understand.
number one.
That's a
But
big thing.
there have been times where, like with the weekly classes, they may have not has done as well as I would like to in the beginning, especially, and then it's like then you have to come out of pocket for
Right,
the studio space and
right,
stuff.
right, right.
And there was so the one unfortunate thing about being in the marketing and communication teams are usually the first to get cut
Okay,
in a lot of companies, and so I've had bouts of unemployment where I've really had to been like, okay, well, classes still have to keep going. And so, oh, great, but do I have this or do I do that? And so, in terms of like the financial aspect too, it's like, okay, well, you have to come out of pocket sometimes. And so when I had those bouts of unemployment, it's like, can I still afford to do this Kizomba
right,
thing?
right,
And
right.
this is just with the weekly classes, not
Come
the
on.
big events. They always do well or whatever, but like the weekly classes, they're saying it ebbs and flows. Sometimes I may have 30 people in a class. Sometimes I only have 6 people in a
Right,
class.
right, right.
But regardless, you still got to pay for that space.
Yes.
And so sometimes you just don't know. It's always a gamble.
Mm.
So, and I just think, I'd take a look at like, okay, well, how can I increase marketing, or how can I do a promotion, or how can I do this, that, and the third. So that's kind of helped me where my marketing background has come
Yeah.
in terms of increasing sales and stuff like that, and always keeping that in mind. So that it's like, well, shoot, maybe I don't have to come out of pocket this time, in terms of that. And then as a individual artist, oh gosh, there's so many times where I've been like, forget this,
Okay.
A lot of it, is the elephant in the room is being a black female in Kizomba. It is very hard.
I've
Being a
heard.
female artist in Kizomba is very hard as well too. But then also adding the component of being a minority female in Kizomba is very hard as
Mm.
well. And so there's been many times where I've been like, you know, I'm talented, I've invested, I've done all of this stuff. Why am I not seeing
Return.
yes? And, why is so and so getting all these bookings, or why am I not here, or why am I not there? And times where I've been like, just forget it, I could be doing other things.
Right.
And then I just said, you know what? You are talented. You do have a lot to offer. Just keep at it. And then
Yeah.
eventually, those people who want you, they will want you.
Yeah.
You don't need to be here and there and everywhere. Because I also realize sometimes some of these folks are doing things for free.
Okay.
And so that's why sometimes you see people in a lot of different places,
Right.
because they're not, their services aren't being paid for. So they're offering their services. And that's just something that I very, very rarely do. And so being steadfast in that and knowing like I've turned down things before because, someone's like, oh, this would be a great opportunity for your resume. And I'm like, well, is this going to get me a promotion at my 9-to-5 job?
Okay.
Because a great opportunity for my dance resume, like, I have to come out of pocket. I have to drive to you or fly to you, and I have to pay for hotel, and I have to do all this stuff, like I may be an up and coming artist, but that's like, hundreds of dollars out of my
Yeah,
pocket
seriously.
to help your event.
Right.
So, yeah. So There's been times where I had a lot of those offers, especially in the beginning, and I was just like really doubting my worth, doubting whether if I should do this or continue and yeah. So
Kizomba RDU is his second job or what? Second job?
yeah, sometimes
Definitely.
I feel like this is a full-time job
I
for
mean, I believe
myself
it. No,
because
seriously.
yeah, like I'll on my lunch breaks I do stuff right after I work 9 to 5, and after that 5 o'clock hits, then I'm on the clock for Kizomba.
Come
So
on.
yeah, there's because I do all my marketing, I do all my flyer designing, I do all the promotions on social media, do all of the back end management, the website, all of it. So
Yeah.
stuff that I could outsource, but I like doing that stuff. So, but doing that, takes a
It
lot of time.
does.
A lot of time.
Seriously.
Yeah. And always, every month sending out a newsletter. I have a listserv of emails. Every month sending out a newsletter. Making sure the events are okay on this platform or that platform. Am I promoting here? Do I have an ad running here? All of these things. A lot of balls in the air to make
Seriously.
this thing keep going. So,
Seriously. That's
yeah.
a lot of time and dedication.
It's a lot of time and
And that's
dedication.
probably something that people don't see
Right.
from just taking classes or come to the socials. They don't see the back end.
They don't see the back end. Yeah.
Right.
A
Oh my
lot of
goodness.
sleepless nights. A lot of tears too.
I
So,
believe it.
yeah. Yeah. A
Okay.
lot of sleepless nights. Yeah.
Mm. And all this because you love it?
Because I love it. I mean, why else does somebody do something crazy,
Right.
right? Insanity is the definition of doing the same thing over and over again.
again.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah. Because I do. I mean, I could even with the birth of my children.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are like, "How are you doing all this? You're already back to dancing. You're already, oh my God." And I'm like, "This is all I know,
Okay.
Like this is all I know. This is my life,
Yeah.
and this is gonna be a part of my children's life,
Right.
and
Yeah.
both, my husband and I, like, this is our culture. This is especially their culture. Like every single day, Kizomba is happening around them.
Right.
Life is happening around them. So, yeah,
Hey. I hope you don't mind me sharing about your children.
yeah,
Yeah, for those who don't know, beside Kimberly has three beautiful babies, 4 months old, soon to be 4 months
4 months,
old.
yeah.
Okay, they are future dancers, right? You said,
Yes.
hey.
Well, they can be whatever they want. But
Okay,
dancers,
sorry.
yes. But they can be whatever they want. But dancers, yes.
Okay, sure enough. Real quick, I want to ask you this real quick. I guess in regards to Kizomba RDU, how would you define successful, and maybe it already is successful, and I guess, what are some goals that you have in mind for, would you prefer to do this full time,
There's been times that I've thought about it. There's times where I dabbled in it. But then I also realized, like, I don't have that hustler spirit.
Okay.
Even though I have been, like,
You definitely have.
hustling.
Yeah.
But I just, my goal, I would love to have packed classes and offer it more than once or twice a week,
Okay.
and be at the same level of offering Kizomba and Semba in this area as the salsa classes are happening in this area too. Yeah, and maybe having our own set studio space. I
Nice.
saw that as a goal too, or a center where other arts and culture can happen too. So maybe not just only Kizomba and Semba happening there too, but there's a lot of different great cultural things on the African diaspora happening in this area constantly. And so helping to support that too. Cultural arts have always been just a passion of mine too.
Yeah.
So, and having a space for that. Yeah, for me, I feel Kizomba RDU has been successful over the years. Classes are always growing. We have ebbs and flows and periods too, but for the most part, classes have always been consistently growing. I had predominantly taught in Durham. So for people who don't know, Raleigh and Durham are actually two separate cities, even though we always say RDU or clump them as Raleigh-Durham. But they're two separate cities, and folks in Raleigh don't like driving to Durham, and folks in Durham don't like driving to Raleigh, even though they're like right next to
They're
each
pretty
other.
close. Yeah.
They're like literally, I'm here, and if you drive 5 minutes up the road that way, that's Durham.
Okay,
So
okay.
yeah, so they're very close to each other. And I had offered teaching classes in Raleigh, so I would like to get back to doing classes in Raleigh and in Durham too.
Right.
To be truly Kizomba RDU. Yeah, but like I said, being able to operate and function on the same level as some of these other companies where they're having class offerings with pack classes,
Right.
Sunday through, Friday
Right.
and stuff
Right.
like
Right.
that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does that? I imagine that maybe starts with maybe having some proteges, people underneath you who can teach as well.
Yeah.
Do you
So
have trust in?
actually, yes, in this past year, I have trained 4 folks. Well, now 3 because one had moved out of the area, and they're still training with me as well too.
Nice.
So yeah. So.
Okay. Okay. What is for myself included, people who are close to North Carolina. What is the Kizomba scene like in Raleigh and Durham?
It's ebbs and flows. This area is a very transient area in terms of there's a lot of colleges here, and there's also a lot of professionals here as well too. And so over the years, we've had, like I said, it ebbs and flows. Some years we have really good sizes in terms of those who come out to our socials. We have monthly socials. Well, we actually have socials twice a month. So
Only twice a month?
only twice a month. Well,
Really?
it's just me.
Okay, sure, okay.
It's just me,
Okay, I
so it's
understand.
hard.
I
Yeah, it's
understand.
hard. And then also space is an issue as
I
well too,
understand.
because a lot of these bars, they want,
Charger.
yeah, and dancers don't
Absorbing
drink a
enough.
lot. Yeah, we don't drink a lot.
Okay,
We
right.
drink some, but we're not,
Right.
getting sloshed
I think
yeah.
is that the social dance scene though?
Yeah, I think that's the social dancing scene in general is that
Not
most
heavy.
dancers, not even in just this area and other areas
Right,
too.
I agree with you.
I've heard there's always stories of, of social closing because the,
The bars.
bar support. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, usually we've had enough to sustain monthly parties and stuff. And then sometimes we haven't just because the area, like I said, it's so transient and ebbs and flows too. So yeah.
I understand. Sure enough.
Yeah.
I don't hold you up too much longer,
Yeah.
but I want to ask you just maybe a couple quick questions and knock
Yeah,
them out
go
real
ahead.
quick. Okay. For someone who is a beginner in Kizomba or Semba, and they feel like they're stuck in a rut, like they're not getting better. What words of wisdom or advice could you offer them?
Travel.
Travel.
Yes. And I say this because you meet so many different people in so many different levels of dancing too. When you're in your local town or your local area, you're dancing with the same people.
Right.
And they're all getting the same, weekly class or, materials and stuff. And even myself, like what I teach in my weekly classes is not even the tip of the iceberg of all that I know.
Right, of course.
But you only have 1 hour or 2 hours every week.
And you can't give them too much, right? Overload.
Right. And so when you travel and you go to festivals or you go to weekenders or workshops in other places, other cities, it may not even be like, a big, huge festival, but like, we're close to Charlotte. So if someone from here, I encourage them to travel to Charlotte. It's like 2.5, 3 hours away. That's changing scenery. That's getting different teacher. That's getting a different scene to dance with and knowing and practicing with different people.
A new perspective as well from that teacher.
Yep. And so travel and also train with different people. I would love to say, yes, just train with me. I'm the best teacher in the world. Woohoo. But I know I can't offer everything to everyone.
Right.
And I've gotten better by training with a variety of different people. So I always encourage my students to do the same too. I'm always promoting other things that are going on and happening as well too. Because for me to sit there and say, no, you can only train with me, like, no, that's unreasonable.
Right.
Yeah.
I understand that definitely. The continuation to that, for someone who is in intermediates and they want to get to that advanced level, what does it take for them?
They need to go back to the basics.
Okay, sure enough.
And have a solid foundation in the basics. Because it doesn't matter all the fancy tricks and dips and woo-ha's and bells and whistles. If you don't have a solid foundation, you will not be able to ever get to the advanced level. Because the advanced level is more than just moves. It's the technique behind the execution. It's the musicality. And so I would say go back to the foundation, go back to the basics, and also work on your musicality as well. Listening to the music, listening to very variety of different music. I love Teresina, but that's not the only music I listen
Okay.
to. I'm always listening to music. I'm always, having my music library increase and stuff while I'm driving, listening to music. When I'm in the shower, listening to music. When I'm at work, listening to music.
Is that how you improve your musicality?
Yeah, but I also just really love music. But
Okay.
yeah, because when you listen to a song, you're able to know the ins and outs of it. Like sometimes songs come on, and I've listened to it a million times, so I know where that break is.
Right.
I
You
know
get
where
familiar with
like
it.
the music picks up, or where it gets soft, or where it's gonna be like stop, and then you go. So when you listen to all that goes into the musicality, but also being able to be playful as well, because you listen to the song, you know the structure of it, you know when the lyrics are going high and low, and then you can adapt your dancing to that.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Sure enough. That was really my final question about musicality, but you answered it perfectly.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So I guess at this point, Kimberly, I really want to thank you.
Yeah.
For taking time out here to talk to me. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah, thank you for having me on the show.
Of course, of course, of
Trying to
course.
see if there's any last parting words of wisdom
Oh,
that I can.
yeah, I want to ask you. We'll get to that. I got
Oh,
you on that.
okay.
Yeah. Real quick. How can people get in contact with you? How can they reach out to you?
Yeah, well, I'm on Facebook.
Hey.
Kimberly Nicole on Facebook. Kizomba RDU on Facebook. KizombaRDU.com. KizombaRDU@gmail.com. Kizomba RDU on Instagram. Yeah, Facebook, Instagram. Those are primarily the two social channels. We're on Meetup as well, too.
Okay.
Yep, Kizomba RDU on Meetup.com as well, too. So, yeah.
Hey. I wanted to say one more thing. Okay, when do you offer classes? That's right, my fault.
Oh gosh,
Is
well,
that
we're
changing?
on like a break now
Okay.
because of the
I know it's
holidays.
also on your website as well. But
Yeah,
just,
it'll be on the website
right.
too when we do go back into classes. It changes.
Okay.
So we were, well, prior to my little ones coming, we were doing Tuesdays and Wednesdays. Tuesdays in Raleigh, Wednesdays in Durham. So we will look into probably doing that again next year.
Okay.
Maybe not those same dates, but still Raleigh and Durham. And maybe we'll offer something on the weekends.
Okay. All right. Sure enough. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. Is there any last thoughts that you want to get out before we close? Anything you want to share with the people, before we end this episode?
Yeah, I would just say,
Speak on it.
if you find yourself in a rut in Kizomba, don't give up. Maybe take a step back and take a break, but then come back to it and have it come back refreshed and passionate for it. There's so much goodness in this. And not just like, sometimes we can get caught up in the Facebook debates, or we can get caught up in the drama or stuff going on in our scenes or what happened at festivals. But to remember that there's more to this dance than just what happens in a dance scene. That there is culture, there is life behind this. And to maybe explore that a little bit more.
Okay.
And if festivals aren't your thing, go to weekenders. Weekenders aren't your thing, have house parties. House parties aren't your things, go to Angola.
Hey.
Yeah, so, yeah. And then also, too, if people do have the means and the opportunity to try to get to Angola. There's a lot of people organizing trips, taking, cultural tours and stuff like that for training and stuff in Angola. And if you can't get to Angola, you can always get to Lisbon,
Hey.
and other parts too. And then if you can't do that, again, as I said, seek out the people who are in country, because there's a lot of talent in the U.S. who have invested in their craft in different cities. You can hit me up. I know all the teachers across the U.S. in different cities, and I can put people in touch within their area. Yeah.
That's very helpful. Definitely, just have a resource, someone who knows someone.
Yeah.
So that's very amazing. That's very useful. Definitely.
Yeah.
Um, I think this is a
Oh,
great
and
way.
support your local scenes
Okay.
because it takes a lot of work to keep things going.
Yeah, you spoke on that already.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it takes a lot of work. Like I said, the things that go on behind the scenes, a lot of people don't see, but the local instructors are really the ones who are building communities
Yes.
and supporting communities. And I know sometimes people will say, oh, well, maybe the dancing's not good, or maybe the music's not good, or maybe I'm this too busy to do this, that, and the third, but really support your local scene because that's where the difference in that sense of home comes from and the community that's being built and to be a part of the community. If you don't like something that's going on in community or you want to see something different in community, then be a part of the problem.
Yeah.
I mean, be a part of the solution
Right.
and not a part of the
Exactly.
problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's that's super important. Especially if you have a small community, you gotta like cultivate it to get it to grow and everything. Be a part of it, support
Right.
it. That's the only way it's gonna grow.
That's the only way that's going to grow.
Exactly.
And it takes effort, for, like I said, for a while, it's been just me here doing things. But since like I have a team now and other people, like when I was out on maternity leave, have stepped up to do other things, like the community grows. And the community is not just one person doing everything.
Right.
The community is multiple people
Of
doing
course.
things. Yeah, and coming together for the love of this dance.
Come on, that's why we do it.
Yep.
Because we enjoy it.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yep.
Hey. So yeah, I want to just thank you. We are on the eve of your workshop tomorrow.
Yes.
Is there a special name to it or?
No, it's just Kizomba Semba boot camp
Okay,
with
boot camp.
Horacio and me.
Sure
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah,
Your
and
husband
then
from Angola.
yeah,
Right?
he's from Angola,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then tomorrow night we'll actually be celebrating 5 years, so we'll have our 5th anniversary soiree
Nice.
at Will's Bistro, and yeah, so we'll just have a party.
That's awesome.
Yeah, usually I have these big weekender things that go on, but with the arrival of the triplets,
understand.
just didn't have time. But I still want to do something. 5 years is such a huge milestone.
Of course, yes.
Still
Seriously.
wanted to do something, even if it's just 3 hours of workshops and social dancing, just to kind of bring folks together. And the beauty about here is that like the whole state comes together. So usually when
nice.
people have functions in North Carolina, people drive from other cities to support. So that's the beauty of the North Carolina scene, not just the scene here, and like locally in Raleigh and in Durham, but across North Carolina, we do kind of have that collective, let's support each other, one another for the events and stuff.
That's
so,
wonderful.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. I'll tell you myself, I'm very excited. I'm very much looking forward to tomorrow.
Yeah, we are very excited for
yeah,
tomorrow
yeah.
too. We have some really good stuff planned.
That's awesome,
So
yes.
yeah, we've been practicing, and we really hope. It's great to have Horacio here too because he
man.
brings a whole nother different
Come on.
level to everything too. I've always been trying to be like, how can I, because I've been to Angola a couple of times, and like always after my first trip, I was like, how can I bring that essence of dancing back
think you
here?
solved that
So,
problem.
well, that was, yeah, in a roundabout way, but that's not how I was planning on doing it originally,
Okay,
but
okay.
it doesn't hurt.
It does not hurt.
Yeah, so it's good to have him here. Because the thing is, the misconception that a lot of people have is like Kizomba is a traditional dance and Kizomba is an old dance. And then, that's when people say with the whole evolution or urban Kiz or Kizomba fusion and stuff like that. When it's like, no, Kizomba is not a traditional dance. Kizomba is happening every single day in Angola now to this day. And there's amazing, incredible talent coming out of there and dancers and stuff. And I'm hoping more of the world, especially with some of the travel opportunities for some of the artists and the ease for, people to travel now. Before it was very hard to go to Angola without being invited. But now they've opened up travel for a list of countries where, you can do an online visa application and you don't need that sponsorship letter and stuff. So it's much easier to travel there to visit and to see up close in person and train. And then vice versa. Next year there's going to be, I won't say like no, it's not a ban, but like before it was very hard for Angolans to travel to go to different places in Europe without visas, and sometimes the visa process was very
Okay,
long or
okay,
denied,
okay.
and so now there's select countries where they don't need a visa to go. They just, buy a plane ticket
Hey,
and go. So
nice.
that's going to open up a lot of doors and opportunities as well too, for people to really see what Kizomba and Semba are about,
Yeah.
versus some of the videos that might be floating around out
Right.
there on the internet. So
Real quick, I'm very curious. Real quick. What's your opinion? What's your take on Urban Kids?
it's not my cup of tea.
Okay.
I dabbled in it for a little bit, but after going to Angola, it is very hard.
Okay.
It is very hard. I can see where people can be attracted to it. It's fun to dance, but it's not my cup of tea for every
Okay.
day. Like I said, having been to Angola and really dancing Kizomba and Semba, and then also knowing how much important stuff it is, like, yeah, but other than that, like, I have friends who are amazing urban kids dancers, and I support them in everything that they do. And I've even had urban kids instructors here too,
Nice.
as well too. So I've had some student who's been interested in it, and I've always pushed them to go and learn in other
Yeah.
places as well, because that's what they're passionate about. Then that's okay.
Right.
But for me personally, not my cup of
Yeah, I
tea.
understand.
Yeah.
I do understand.
Yeah.
I definitely do.
Yeah, but I think it does have its place, and I think it's growing here in the U.S. as well too, and it will continue to grow. But
Definitely.
just like
Yeah.
Kizomba will continue to grow as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, kind of, you just attracted what you're attracted to, but
right,
there'll be crowds for both dances,
there is
obviously.
crowds for and same thing here. Like, we play music for everybody, and
Okay,
we welcome
nice.
everybody. So it's
Nice.
not like, oh, I'm a purist. I'm
Okay,
like,
okay.
like, no, I don't believe in that. Like, to me, dance is about having fun,
Yeah.
and the less walls and barriers. But I do think it's important for people to know what they are dancing.
That very,
And to me, I
very,
think that's been a lot of what the whole debate, I guess, has been, is calling the stuff that's not Kizomba something else, and for people to know. Because like I said myself too in the beginning, I was
right.
learning stuff that I thought was Kizomba, and then it's like, okay, well, no, this is really Kizomba, and that might have been more fusiony, or might have been more, well, back then they didn't have the word urban kids, so
Okay.
everything was under the Kizomba umbrella. But now that we're evolving as a whole, I guess, and then having, like, this is urban kids, this is fusion, this is Kizomba. I think it's very important for people to know what they are dancing.
Yes.
But people dance what they want to dance. What someone else's dance has no effect on me
No,
at all. So
exactly.
yeah,
I think, yeah, for beginners, it can be kind of difficult to maybe tell the difference between the
right.
two. So I understand that confusion. I can
Yeah.
understand it.
Yeah, but then once you get in, I always say there's like three types of dancers. There's those, and this is with any dance, not just with Kizomba, but like, there's those who want to know the dance, the culture, the history. They just want to dive
Dive
into
all the
that
way
part.
in, yeah.
Then there's those who they do love the fusion and the new styles of dances, and the creativity behind fusing this dance with that dance, or bringing in maybe hip hop moves into a more, less structured way. And then you have those who just want to learn just a little bit. So
Right.
they're not just, when this comes on as social, they're not sitting down. So,
I
yeah.
understand, yeah. I
Yeah.
definitely understand that. I can really tell, how passionate you are about this, Kimberly. I really
Yeah.
can tell. And then it's kind of, exciting when you see someone talk about or do what they love. It's kind of like,
Yeah.
it's just fun, to see it. So I thoroughly enjoyed it. I really want to
Yeah,
thank you so
thank
much.
you. Yeah, thank you for, one, coming all the way down here, and not minding my children
It's totally
downstairs as
fine.
well. So yeah, I
They're adorable, so
appreciate.
that's not a
I don't
problem.
really get these many opportunities, so when
Of
you said, I
course.
was like, yes, I'll do it. So
Hey.
yeah, I don't think a lot of people know. They know of me, but they don't know how I got into it
Right,
and
right,
stuff like
right.
that, or my story, or the journey, or how I started, or some of my trials and tribulations
Yes.
with it and stuff, or that I post stuff on Facebook, and I'm always an advocate for doing the right thing, and for especially women of color having a voice, especially in this dance and stuff. So that's one of the things that I always promote and talk about too. So Yeah, and I think outside of that, maybe people don't know much more else behind me or
Yeah.
that. So
I want to give you opportunity, to speak your story. That's what I
yeah,
want to do. Yeah.
thank you. I
Of
hope I
course.
did semi-justice.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
I
so
thought I enjoyed it. So at least for me, this was a great time,
yeah.
great opportunity.
Yeah, and I also say like Kizomba is for everybody as well too. So it doesn't matter your race, your color, your size.
Social
Like,
dancer, right?
you know, it really is for everybody. It's regardless of what you may see in videos or what you may see at festivals. Like these are just constructs, but in
Exactly.
everyday life, like no, it really is for everybody.
Exactly.
And I think my students here, I've had students who've been 17, I've had students who've been 63, and they've all been in the same class. They might have even also been on the same dance team at one time. So it's like you have an array of people just coming together for the love of this dance, and that's the beauty of it. And that no one should feel that this dance isn't accessible to them. And that's something that I also like to kind of like impress on folks too, that you may see this in the video or you may see that, but really like you should be open to everything, and that's how Kizomba is well too.
Sure enough.
Yeah.
Hey, bring everybody together.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Hey. I think that's a great way to wrap this episode up. I think this will do it for this episode of the Two Good Feet Podcast. Thank you so much, Kimberly.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
Of course. That would do it. Take it easy.
Bye.
Hey.